Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. I want to thank you for joining me today. This is going to be part 4 of our Franchise Wars series. So let's not waste too much time. Let's roll the intro and get right into it. Alright, so number 4 on the list is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. So Renee Zellweger is in this. She does a fair job in it. Matthew McConaughey is in this, and he chews the scenery like nobody else in this one. Really and truly, the acting from everybody else around them isn't very good. At best, it's after a school special level of acting. But, you know, you can kind of look over that, except for other things. The masks that they put on Leatherface in this one are absolutely atrocious. The woman mask in it literally looks like they stuck a tortilla on his face and cut holes in it. It's that bad. The end of it where the Illuminati comes in is really the straw that broke the camel's back. That's the one point on that in this movie that makes this one for me worse than the second one, and what makes this one the worst in the entire franchise. It just goes, the reason, you know, you have a reasonable suspension of disbelief and that just goes right over it. You know, jumping the shark, well, it did it twice and it did it naked the second time. There's some really funny moments in it, some of them intentional, some of them not. But, you know, as a general rule, it's just a very weak movie. And it's number 4 on my list on this countdown, and it's the bottom of the list for the franchise for me. Alright, so let's move on to number 3. Okay, so number 3 on this list is Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter. I know this is probably going to be controversial, and I know that some people are going to be kind of upset with me on this one. But honestly, I think Part 4 is so overrated in most people's opinions. I just don't really get it. I mean, I get it for the nostalgia factor. I get it for the fact that everybody loves Corey Feldman when he was young. But honestly, I don't think Corey Feldman's acting is all that great. There are moments in it where he comes across as very genuine. He comes across as the character that he's playing, the Tommy character. And then the rest of it, it's the other 50% or so of his performance is really kind of, could be any kid. It could be any kid actor. Doesn't do a great job with a lot of the you know, moments in it for me. The scenes where he's reacting, especially the scenes where he's reacting to the nudity, those come across super genuine and super realistic, and everything else is just kind of phoned in. Plus, this movie has someone in it that I absolutely cannot stand, and that's Crispin Glover. I don't think that the dance is funny. I don't think that the character is funny. He makes my teeth itch. I just, honestly, I have never seen him in a movie where I enjoyed his performance. There are other movies that he's been in that I've enjoyed the movie overall, but every time he's on screen, I just can't. The dance thing, I absolutely fast forward through that moment every time it comes on screen when I watch this movie. I don't really even watch this one all that often. I think that it's just an inferior entry into the series, and I think it's extremely overrated on most people's list. So it's number 3 on my list, and it's fairly low when I do the franchise. So let's move on to number 2. So number 2 on my list is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4: The Dream Master. I really this one really doesn't rank very high for me, but in the franchises, but on this list of these particular installments, I think it does a better job than what the other two did. It's almost like a anthology movie. The little vignettes that they do for each individual death are very separate from the overall story arc, and I'm okay with that. It's not the best way to do it, but it's not horrible. Couple of the kill scenes in it, Joey's kill scene where he's sucked into the waterbed, pays a great tribute to the bed kill from the first one, but it updates it. The way Freddy's brought back to life is dumb at best. So, there's that. Tuesday Night came in to take over the role that Patricia Arquette had started in the previous one. I don't think Tuesday Night does a bad job. I think she gets a lot of hate because she was coming in after Patricia Arquette, who is really good. I think she gets a lot of undue hate. She really does. I don't think she does a very bad job at all. It's not great. She's not going to be an Oscar winner in this role by any means. But it's not nearly as bad as everybody makes it out to be. There are a couple of clunky deaths in it. The Alice character's brother, where he's big into martial arts and he's fighting the Invisible Freddy. Yeah, that comes off really lame. And then just to end it with just the glove flying into him, you could have done so much better with that. You could have been, a slash here and a slash there, and just the slashes appearing on him. Just wasted potential with that scene. Could have done the same kind of thing that they did with the Tina's death in the first one. It would have been an actual really good death, and it would have covered up the fighting the invisible person. Which actually, to give some credit to the actor, it's almost convincing. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're literally fighting nothing. You're just, performing like that. So the roach kill is one of my favorites in the franchise, actually. It's actually one of the creepiest ones. Not so much for the roach part of it, although the practical effects in that scene are really good. But when she's lifting the weight and he pushes the bar down and you see her arms snap at the elbow, yeah, that's pretty good. That one got me. And I do like my gore, and that one got me. And that one's still effective, even to this day, as many times as I've seen this movie. The character of Alice, really nice character development with her. She begins as the shy wallflower and comes out as the warrior. The way that they kill Freddy, the mirror thing, the continuity isn't exactly right because of what they did with the end of the third one with the mirror hall. So a mirror in a dream shouldn't have done that. That said, however, the little arms and things coming out of him and tearing him apart in it, that's one of the how they got there is dumb and inconsistent with what's been established, but the actuality of the effect, the practical effect of that, is good. So overall, I think that this is a more watchable entry. It's more of a comedic in the franchise. It really is that just tipped over the edge from there's no real creep factor to the Freddy character anymore. The creep factor comes in from the kills, but really he's headed into that comedian range, and probably half of the one-liners land for me. Get a chuckle out of some of them. You know, the Alice in Wonderland references with the Alice character, you know, well, just chalk it up to Rennie Harlan being a Scandinavian and a bit weird. But, you know, overall, I think this is still a watchable entry. It's really the last watchable entry in the Nightmare series, at least for a while. So yeah, that was my number 2 on this list. Let's move on to number 1. Alright, so number 1 on our list, or my list, is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This movie is, to me, an apology for the steaming pile of crap that Halloween 3 was. The introduction of the Jamie Lloyd character, played by Danielle Harris, is a fabulous addition to the lineup. Donald Pleasance returns. Nice to see the character growth that his character goes through, from being driven almost mad at times in the first 2 to coming back as a much more human character. The relationship between Jamie's character and her stepsister Rachel is really nice to see. The way that their character arc develops throughout the movie. The scene on the roof where she is protecting her and climbing all over that roof to get away from Michael. Very well done. I've kind of told the story before, but I'll go ahead and go through it again. The first Halloween movie I saw was Halloween 3. I didn't know who Michael Myers was. I didn't know that the Halloweens before that was a slasher. I just knew that friends had told me that Halloween 3 that Halloween was the best franchise out there. It was so much better than the Friday the 13th and so much better than the Nightmare on Elm Streets and, you know, all of that. And the first one that I saw was part 3, and I hated it. And that was right after it came out on videotape. So I never saw the first 2 until right before this one came out, and I was going to see this one in the theaters the next weekend when it opened. So I went and rented the first 2, and I watched the first 2 back to back, and then the very next weekend I went to see this one. This one, honestly, for me, was, at that time, I enjoyed it more than the first 2. Now I look at it differently. The first 2 are more of a classic. They're better movies, better made, better directed, better acted, for the most part. But this one has still got a really sweet spot for me. You know, for what it is. And one thing I want to say about this one, it's interesting on this lineup that you've got Danielle Harris coming in this one, and Corey Feldman in Friday 4. And where Corey Feldman's performance for me is up and down and up and down, Danielle Harris comes into this one at 10 years old and just knocks it out of the park as far as it goes. Probably one of, if not the best, performances I've ever seen by a kid in a horror movie. She just comes in and just personifies that character. And then, of course, the ending of it, that whole thing with, you know, the callback to the first one. This one ends the way the very first one began. Spoiler if you haven't seen it already, but hell, it's a 20-something-year-old movie. I guess it's probably about 30 years old now, but so if you haven't seen it already, what's wrong with you? So yeah, and really what pushes that one, of course, over the edge is the great Donald Pleasance. And I love the subtle makeup that they did with him, although I know that there's a couple of scenes where they had to kind of redo because he didn't like the first makeup. He thought it looked like a fried egg stuck to the side of his face. But anyway, the subtle makeup that they do for the burn on that, from being a callback to part 2 or a direct sequel to part 2, I think they did that very well. I think that he carried that very well. There's some good kills in this one. Great acting by, of course, there are 2 leads, like I said, or 3 leads actually, because the actress that played Rachel did a very good job as well. So yeah, for me, this one is number 1 on this list. That's my list for this week, guys. We'll see you next week on the part 5. That's going to be an interesting one too. As always, advocacy links, my personal links, the Teespring link, all that stuff is down in the description. So yeah, that's kind of it for me for this week for the horror video for Franchise Wars Part 4. We'll see y'all next week, and y'all be safe, and y'all have a good one.